All right, let's dive right in, shall we? We're talking Antoine Dupont back in action for France in the Six Nations.
Back with a vengeance, you could say.
It's wild to think just last year he was off winning gold at the Olympics in rugby sevens. What a choice to make.
A bold one. But I mean, the guy's a machine.
Total legend. And now he's back with the XV's squad, and French coach Fabien Galthié is already singing his praises, calling him, and I quote, the heart of the team.
Yeah, Galthié even said he carries around him and with him an aura that impacts the France group. His return for us is something important. So, yeah, pretty high praise.
High praise indeed. But there's a twist to this comeback story. Dupont picked up some serious skills during his seven stint, and one in particular we hear could totally transform his game in the upcoming Six Nations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what might that be?
Well, to understand that, we need to break down the difference between sevens and XC's rugby because, frankly, they're worlds apart.
You got that right. It's like comparing a cheetah to a lion. Both powerful, both fast, but built for different games.
Totally. So walk us through it. Sevens is all about what?
Speed, agility, and, well, think of it like rugby on fast forward. Smaller teams, 7 players aside, shorter matches, but the pace is relentless.
And every player has to do it all.
Precisely. You got to be able to run, pass, tackle, ruck, the whole 9 yards. There's no hiding in sevens.
No hiding at all. So how did this sevens boot camp change Dupont, a guy who was already a rugby superstar?
He was already world-class, no doubt. But even Dupont admitted there were areas he needed to work on. He said, on a 7-a-side field, we have to be good in all rugby skills. I think I need to work on certain skills that I didn't necessarily work on before, like in the ruck zones, for example.
Okay, hold on. For the folks at home who might not be fluent in rugby lingo, what exactly are ruck zones? Sounds a bit like a sci-fi movie.
Right. It does sound kind of intense. But really, think of it like a mini scrum, but for possession. It happens after a tackle. Players from both teams pile onto the ball carrier. The goal is to win the ball back.
Sounds brutal.
It can be, but it's crucial. So Dupont's been honing his rucking skills in sevens, and now he's bringing that expertise back to XVs.
And how big of an impact can better rucking really have? I mean, XVs is often dominated by the big guys up front.
It's a game changer, potentially. Imagine this. Dupont, already known for his lightning speed, now wins the ruck, gets that ball, and launches an attack before the defense even has a chance to blink.
Boom. Game over.
Pretty much. It completely throws off their strategy. Plus, it just adds another layer to Dupont's game.
Okay.
Makes him even more unpredictable.
Right, like he was already a threat, but now...
Now he's a force of nature, and you got to admire that. He saw a gap in his skill set, went and filled it.
Yeah, talk about dedication.
That guy's a role model, on and off the field, always striving to improve. It's inspiring.
Totally agree. So let's get specific here. How exactly did Sevens change Dupont's approach to the ruck? What techniques did he refine?
In his own words, Dupont said, I think I need to work on certain skills that I didn't necessarily work on before, like in the ruck zones, for example. I worked on my throws, too, even if it would be less useful to me in XVs. But the ruck is the most important thing I worked on in sevens. It's that constant battle for possession in sevens, right? Every player is involved, so he was constantly honing his technique.
So more reps, basically.
Exactly. More reps, more pressure, more intensity, and that's key for developing a sharp sense of timing and positioning.
Interesting. So sevens forced him to be more, I don't know, aggressive in the ruck.
You could say that. I mean, in XVs, Dupont's often the maestro directing the attack, but in sevens, everyone's in the trenches.
Getting down and dirty.
Exactly. And that experience, that grit, that's going to make him a more well-rounded player, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. More unpredictable, more dangerous. But let's not forget, Dupont missed the last Six Nations. How do you think he felt watching his team from the sidelines?
Got mixed emotions there. He was achieving amazing things in sevens, but he also said it wasn't easy to watch the guys. I think last year's result was not what we expected.
Makes sense. You're winning gold, but your team, your XV's family, isn't performing as well as hoped. Must have been tough.
Yeah, no doubt. He clearly loves playing for France, for the XV's team. And, they came close to winning last year's Six Nations.
He did. So there's that unfinished business element too, right?
Definitely. He also mentioned, but once again, I had other objectives while being focused on my sevens career. I think that even if we were not at our best level, the end result was not so bad. We finished second in the tournament, we had a good series in November, and we must continue to keep the momentum for the Six Nations. So trying to find the positives.
Always a good mindset.
Absolutely. Use that as fuel to push forward. But there are some hurdles. Dupont himself mentioned the limited prep time before the tournament starts.
Oh, right. How much of a factor is that going to be?
Well, jumping back into XVs after focusing on sevens, it's a transition. The pace is different, the tactics, the physicality. It takes time to adjust.
And to gel as a team again?
Exactly. So France will need to be adaptable. Rely on that individual brilliance, but also find their groove as a unit fast.
So much to think about. We've got this incredible player, Antoine Dupont, back in the mix, and he's brought a new weapon to the arsenal. His enhanced rucking, he's hungry to win, and France is looking strong. But there are challenges ahead. Where do we go from here? How does this all play out in the grand scheme of the Six Nations?
It's a huge boost, no question. I mean, France is already considered a top contender for the Six Nations, and with Dupont back in the mix. Plus his new skills, they're looking dangerous.
Dangerous indeed. But let's not forget the Six Nations is a beast of a tournament. Every match is a battle.
Absolutely. Any team can win on any given day.
That's what makes it so exciting. But okay, besides Dupont's return and this whole rucking revelation, what else should we be watching for? What other factors could make or break France's chances?
Well, team chemistry is going to be huge.
Right, because he was away for a while, focused on sevens.
Exactly. So can they gel quickly? Especially with that limited prep time we talked about. And then, of course, there's the injury factor, always a wild card.
One wrong twist, one bad tackle, and it could all change.
It's true. But going back to that chemistry thing, Dupont's absence might have been a blessing in disguise.
Oh, how so?
Well, it could have given other players a chance to step up, take on leadership roles.
Interesting. So maybe a more balanced team dynamic?
Possibly. A renewed sense of shared responsibility. But on the flip side, there's always that risk of a disconnect.
When a star player returns.
Right. Like, will everyone fall back into old habits? Will Dupont try to do too much? It's a delicate balance.
Like a puzzle, almost. Finding the right pieces to fit together.
Precisely. And that's where the coaching staff comes in. They need to manage those personalities, build trust, create a clear vision for the team.
Sounds like there's a lot more to it than just having talent on the field. It's about those intangible things, the mental game.
Oh, absolutely. That's what separates the good teams from the great ones.
Right. So speaking of great teams, let's talk about France's competition in the Six Nations. They're facing some heavy hitters.
They are. It's a gauntlet of rugby powerhouses.
Who should we be most worried about?
Well, first up, they've got Wales, always a tough match.
And then
Ireland. They're looking like the team to beat this year. Then Scotland's the old rivals England. And finally, Italy.
wow, they're not easing into it at all.
Not even a little bit. Each of those teams brings something different to the table.
Different styles, different strengths. I bet the coaches are already losing sleep over this.
I'm sure they are. But, for us fans, this is what we live for. Those epic clashes, the best players in the world going head-to-head.
I can already picture it. The energy, the passion.
Oh, it's going to be electric. Like, just imagine Dupont going up against Ireland's scrum half, Jamison Gibson-Park.
That's a matchup for the ages. Two tactical masterminds, lightning-fast decision-makers.
And then there's the historic rivalry, France versus England.
Ah, yes. The clash of titans.
That match is always a spectacle, pure rugby drama.
It transcends the sport almost, becomes about national pride.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Dupont's journey, his seventh transformation, France's chances, their opponents, those key matchups. But let's take a step back for a second. Why should our listener care about all this? What makes the Six Nations so special?
Yeah, what's the big deal?
It's more than just a tournament. It's a celebration of, it's about national pride, athletic excellence, the human spirit pushing its limits.
It's contagious, that energy.
You get swept up in it.
Yeah.
And the format itself adds to the drama. Every match matters.
Every point counts.
Exactly. Creates this constant tension. And it's a short tournament, 5 matches for each team. So every game feels like a must-win.
Makes you feel like you're watching a thriller unfold.
A pressure cooker of rugby brilliance.
I love that. Pressure cooker of rugby brilliance. Perfect description. Speaking of brilliance, let's talk more about what makes Antoine Dupont so captivating to watch.
Well, he's got this incredible combination of speed, vision, and tactical awareness.
He's like a chess grandmaster on the field.
Right. Always thinking 3 steps ahead, and then boom, he unleashes that acceleration, and defenders are left in the dust.
It's like he's playing a different game sometimes.
He sees things others don't, creates opportunities out of thin air. And beyond the physical skills, he's got this aura of confidence, inspires his teammates.
A true leader. But let's get back to the heart of this deep dive. Dupont's enhanced rucking skills. We've talked about how sevens forced him to level up in that area, but just how big of a game changer could this be for France?
Rucking is often overlooked.
Yeah, it's not the flashiest part of the game.
Right. but it's absolutely fundamental. It's the foundation for everything else.
The foundation. Okay, I like that. Break it down for me. How can better rucking lead to more wins for France?
Well, first off, it gives them faster ball possession,
Which means
which means they can launch attacks while the defense is still disorganized.
creating chaos.
Exactly. And that's where Dupont's vision and playmaking really shine. More time, more space to create those magical moments.
So better rucking leads to faster ball, which leads to more attacks, which leads to more points.
It's chain reaction, but it's not just about offense.
Oh, right. There's the defensive side, too.
It disrupts the opponent's flow. If France can consistently win those ruck battles, the other team is constantly on their back foot,
Wears them down.
mentally and physically. It shifts the momentum. But, there's always the flip side. Could there be any downsides to this whole sevens transformation? Could focusing so much on rucking take away from other parts of his game? That's the big question, isn't it? It's always a risk, right? You get so good at one thing, you might neglect others.
Right, like could all that time in sevens where it's so much about individual brilliance make him less likely to pass the ball in XVs?
It's possible. We know Dupont can make those dazzling solo plays, but XVs is a team sport.
So he'll need to find that sweet spot.
Balance those instincts with the need to involve his teammates.
Right, the classic dilemma, individual flair versus team strategy. It'll be fascinating to watch how he adapts. So for our listeners tuning in to the Six Nations, what should they be watching for specifically when it comes to Dupont?
Keep an eye on those ruck battles. How's he approaching them? His technique, timing, how quickly he secures the ball.
Like, are those little victories translating into bigger games for the team?
Exactly. And then what does he do with the ball? Does he pass? Does he take off running himself?
Decisions.
Exactly. And for folks who might not be rugby experts, another thing to watch is his communication.
Oh, right, how he interacts with his teammates.
Is he directing the attack?
Yeah.
Empowering those around him? Or is he getting tunnel vision trying to do it all himself?
So the real test of his sevens transformation is how well he fits back into the XV's system.
And how much he elevates the team as a whole.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked Dupont's personal growth, the Six Nations as a spectacle, France's chances, their rivals, what makes Dupont such a unique player, and of course, those enhanced rucking skills. But as we wrap up, let's zoom out for a second. What are the big takeaways here? What should our listeners keep in mind as they follow France in the Six Nations?
Well, first off, Dupont's sevens experience has potentially made him an even stronger player, especially in the ruck.
Right, and it shows his dedication to constantly pushing himself, never settling.
Absolutely. Second, France is entering this tournament with high hopes. They've got the talent, the coaching, but also some hurdles to overcome.
Like that limited prep time and those tough opponents.
It's going to be a wild ride, that's for sure, full of drama.
But let's not forget, the Six Nations is more than just wins and losses.
It's about passion, national pride, that spirit of competition.
It's something special, and with Dupont leading the charge for France, it's going to be a tournament to remember. Now, before we go, one final thought to leave you with. We've talked about Dupont's skills, France's potential, the challenges ahead, but there's one crucial ingredient we haven't really touched on: belief.
Ah, yes, belief, the X factor.
Exactly. Belief in yourself, in your team, in the possibility of achieving something great. Do you think France has that belief? And if so, how much of an impact could that have on their Six Nations journey?
That's the million-dollar question. I think they do, but we'll see. As you watch them play, look for signs of that belief. Listen to what they say, watch their body language.
That energy they bring to the field.
Because sometimes when a team truly believes, when they tap into that collective spirit, they can defy all odds.
It's that intangible force that can push a team from good to great, from contenders to champions.
It's true.
And who knows, maybe the Six Nations will be where France, with Antoine Dupont at the helm, writes a new chapter in their rugby legacy.
It's a story waiting to be told.
And we'll be here to witness it. All right, folks, that's a wrap for this deep dive into the world of Antoine Dupont and the French national rugby team. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time for another exciting exploration.